What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today on the Craigslist Civic, we're doing a short shifter. So like I said, today we're putting in a Skunk2 dual bend short shifter, and this is it. It's very straightforward. It's very nice. It's very nice. Comes with some really nice hardware. It's better than the B&M. I got the dual bend just because I wanted the dual bend. They also make a single bend if you want to, replicate your factory setup. And then on top of that, I got the weighted Skunk2 440 gram shift knob. It's all billet aluminum. It feels really nice. It weighs a good pound, or whatever 440 grams is. Something else you're going to want for this job, I really don't think I need it, but I got them anyway, is energy suspension. They're shift linkage bushing. That way everything's nice and tight when you get in there. That way there's no slop, because believe me, the shifter and the knob itself is going to weigh a good bit. So if you have any old bushings or any old shifter bushings, they're going to be nice and flimsy by the time you're done with this. And then on top of that, there's the shift ball bushing itself that goes around the shifter, and the dust boot that goes with that. And these are all Honda stuff, and there you go. I will give you the part numbers for both right there. I'll also put them in a link to the description on eBay. So with that, let's get into the car. Alright, so first step of this job, before we even get under the car, there is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 screws on each side of this center console. They have to come out, and then the whole center console will come out. So let's get to that. Gotta get this screw. And like I said, you repeat the process on both sides. This screw. Come on, you. Alright. Try to get your seat back as far as you can get it. Get a stubby screwdriver. That way you can actually get in there. This is going to be the hardest screw. This one on this side, and that one on the other side, without taking your seats out. But try to just get those out. Keep your screws together. And once you have those out, you got to slide the seat forward. Screw here and screw there. And we'll come back to you when we're done that. So, once you pull those screws out, you're going to have to pull your e-brake up a little bit. The back will click off. It'll actually come apart in 2 pieces. The back will pop off. You pull that out first, and then the front will just pull right out. You want to make sure you take your shift knob off first, obviously. And while we're in here, we're going to adjust our e-brake cable, which we'll get to that. But it's this 12mm nut right here on the back. You just tighten it up a few times until you get this in the spec. But we'll worry about that in a minute. So first things first, what you want to do is when you're on top here, this is really the last thing you're going to do while you're on top before we go under the car, is going to be, there's this shift boot right here that's on this metal lip. And we're going to take this, we're going to pull it off, make sure you don't rip it, and then we're going to just shove it down inside. So that way when we pull it out from the bottom, everything slides out. And hopefully we can slide this all out without our exhaust being in the way. Alright, now the car's up in the air. You're going to have to knock this off right here. It's a 12mm. And then we're going to have to get way deep in here. I'm going to try and show you. There's a 12mm right there. And then once that comes down, we're going to push that out of the way. And then behind that are 2 10mm. And then behind that are another set of 2 12s. And then, yeah, just bring all that stuff down in the layer. It's really not that hard. And we'll get to that when we're there. So once you have this out of here, you're gonna take, like I said, you're gonna get the one piece out of the way, and then you're gonna take this whole bar out. So this came off of here. This is an old energy suspension, but you're going to need, if you look inside here, there's 2 dowels or 2 bushing guides that you're going to need out of here as well. That pulls off the end of here. Okay, you're going to, the kit itself comes with all new grease, but if you don't have, if it didn't or whatever, you need some lithium grease. Do not use high temperature grease. Do not use that stuff. Anything on rubber, stuff like that, you do not use high temp grease, like axle grease or any of that type of stuff. It'll eat through polyurethane or eat through rubber. You get a year down the road and it'll start getting all funky on you. So once this is off, this is basically the whole unit. There's 2 10mm right here that you're going to have to take off. This plate will come off, and then there's a dust boot, and then the ball inside of there, and that'll pop off, and we'll pop this off with it, and then we'll put the new one in. But we do have to clean some stuff up first, so we'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so there's 2 10mm bolts that are going to come out of the top of this shifter arm right here. They pop out. And once you pop that out, they can give you a little bit of trouble, but once they pop out, look like this. Come out with two nuts and 2 washers. This clip will come out with it, and then the entire shifter will just pull out of the bottom, like that. And then, once you do that, now if you didn't order anything new, you just pull this boot off of here. It will come off with its belt, with the boot and everything. You can take those off, and it'll make your life a little easier. Just trying to slide this off. Try not to rip it if you're reusing it. And pop that down and pop her out. So, unfortunately, went ahead and I've got a brand new one. So what I did, I'm going to grease her up a little bit. Put some lithium grease on there. Like I said, no axle grease on any of this stuff. It's all lithium. Do not use axle grease. So make sure she's got a sufficient amount. Slide that on there. We'll slide the new dust boot on there, and we'll go from there. Okay, so once you have everything back together, little trick is make sure you just get everything nice and lubed up with some lithium. This actual boot itself, slide it in from the bottom because it's going to be tight to get it underneath of this piece right here, and then slide the ball down over slide the actual bushing for the ball over the ball, and slide it into the boot. Just mush it in there. You'll get it to fit if it's new. And then go ahead and you slide this piece, which I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's this piece, and go ahead and slide that up. Push everything up in here, of course, and make sure it looks like it does the other one. You know, so if you have both of them, you can get a good reference. Yeah, look how short that is, comparably.
Yeah.
Looks good. And then slide this piece with this ridge facing down, slip it up over this lip. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to slide her back up in here. This piece will only go one way. So make sure she goes up in there. She's set. She's good. She's riding in there. Everything looks nice. Everything's sitting nice and flush. We'll put our bolts back in. And yeah, that's that. Here's the old bushing. Here's the new bushing. Since I have a bunch of lithium grease as it is, I keep saying it's silicone grease, but so these are going to be factory. You don't want to lose these. The kit does not come with these. Some of these kits, not energy, but a couple kits come with new bushers for this. So I popped the old ones out. What you're going to do is you're going to use the grease. You're going to get them all nice and lubricated. Remember, use as much as you can. Don't go cheap on it. The more you use, the easier your life will be. Trust me on that. And you're going to take them, shove them in there, just like that. And then we're going to repeat the process on the other one. And then we're going to lubricate the end of this shaft and shove her on there. And then that will be that. Oh, and then we're going to, here, we'll do this in one clip. nice and lubed up. She's on there. She's in there. Okay. Get some grease on here. All this is doing is just making insulation easy. Of course, it's super cold out right now. I think where we are in Maryland, what do you think? It's about 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So, the voice you're hearing is my lovely assistant on the camera today. So, once you have that, sometimes this can be a little spread out. It can be a little tricky because these are really, really tight. But you're going to go ahead and you're going to try, just like it is. I'm going to try and slide that over without breaking your fingers. So you want it to go on so it faces that way, faces down towards the ground, the hump. It's going to face the ground. But there you go. It's all about lube and will. You know, the more lube and the more you want it, always makes it better. So that just slides on just like that until it's ready to go back up in the car. Then we have the cover that goes over top of it, which I'm painting right now because mine was all gross and funky looking. Kind of looked like this, but I didn't feel like going that deep into that. Now for this one, we're going to repeat this process. If you want to come over here, show this. This comes with the kit. This bushing for these comes with the kit, but I cleaned this out with brake clean. And what you want to do is you want to make sure these are all nice and lubricated. If you don't, these will squeak. And it does come with another pack of grease. That is going to be for the outside of these things when you slide it up into the car. So once you have these outsides lubed up, go ahead, slide her in there. Okay, that's one. Like I said, don't worry about if you use too much. You really can't. The more grease, the better. Just makes life a lot easier putting this stuff in. Again, no bearing grease. None of that red stuff. That will eat through this. And then if you ever want to try to take them out, you're going to have a hell of a time. It'll be stuck in, like I had oil in the other ones, and they did not want to come out. They push in once you have that in. Okay, now you want to do is you want to take this pin, and again just repeat. You might as well use up the rest of this tube if you can, if you want. This stuff is super tacky because it's super cold out. Just take that, make sure it slides through. Yep, and that's it. And then what we're going to do is, before we put it in the car, we're going to grease up real well. We're going to grease up these sides, as much grease as we can get on here as possible. We just want lots of lubrication. Didn't want to put it all up in there, but it'll be alright. Some of that out of there. Okay. Just want to make sure this is nice and lubricated. So when you go to try to slide it back into the car, it goes into the spot that it needs to go in. So be very generous with this stuff. You can never have too much. Alright, we're going to get in here, and if you want to come around, just keep it rolling. So I'm going to have to get in here and do some funky shit. Ugh.
You want me underneath?
Yeah, get down next to the
work. There we go.
Oh, did it really go up that easy? It did. Okay. Now, we'll put our bolt back in. Ratchet wrench, 12 mil. We're not going to tighten that all the way just yet. And leave it so we can maneuver it. Take our bracket piece here. Here's where the fun part comes.
Oh, I can't see up in there.
These two 12 mil bolts. Okay, so we put everything back in, slid that up in there, tighten that down with the 12. Ran into a little bit of a snafu here, where the linkage itself was a little bit of play, but once I put everything in and tightened it down, it cinched it together, so it's nice and tight in there. So I'm just gonna, everything's tight, everything's good. I tested the shifter feels good. And I'm just gonna get back in the car and repeat the process, and I'll come back to you when everything's back together. So when you slide this sucker back in here, there are two clips on the bottom of your cup holders. You just wanna make sure you land on those. You wanna make sure your shifter goes over. Make sure any janky wires that are hanging out, make sure they're tucked back in. And bang, she landed.
Stop.
No. Alright. Then we bring in, this is the fun part. Getting this thing to land. We re-brake up a little. Bring this back. Alright guys, so had a lot of trouble with the cold, so the camera kept cutting in and out. I hope I got as much of it as I possibly could. I think I covered very briefly on the little bit of the spacer situation. All I did was put the spacers in to go in, and the washers on each side of the fork on the second shifter fork, and I cranked her down and it came together and everything was fine. So if you get in and you check her out, she is done. She feels good. Nice and short. Feels good. And that's that. And when you put the shifter knob on, all you do is you take the little, comes with a little set screw or nut, screw it all the way to the bottom. Take the shifter ball, you screw it all the way down as far as it'll go until you can read this the way it's supposed to be read. You take the nut, you cinch it up, and bang, it's everything you need to do. So, with that, I'd like to say, like always, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if you can, it helps the algorithm, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.